Welcome back to Let's Talk Race in Maryland. I'm your host, Harrison Paul. Today we're going to talk about Donald Trump's guilty verdict on all 34 counts. I'm not too sure what he has been found guilty for. Personally, I don't think it quite matters. I do think it's a shock that we have always understood the higher-ups to be nothing short of criminals, but I guess they're the billionaires, they're the ones in control, so they make the rules at the end of the day, right? And we've never doubted this. We've never doubted the higher ups. There's been corruption up there, and it's normal to be corrupt in those higher places. But it shocks me that all of a sudden there's an uproar amongst some of the American people who feel like this has been a miscarriage of justice, and it just makes me ask the question of since when did we ever question billionaires and all the likes to be people who are clean right to the bone. The question is, should he have got away with it, and why was he the only one that did not get away with it? Well, then are we judging it based off of the usual is billionaires who get away with stuff, and we're just a bit skeptical of why this billionaire was caught up on his behavior? If anything, justice was served truly for the first time, really, and we rarely get those moments if we think about Epstein, if we think about all the sorts, if we think about even, Prince Andrew. We already know these people can do as they wish, as they please, and really they have enough power to shoot things away. So it shocks me that you're now wondering, whoa, is Trump, has he been clean like a whistle his whole life? No. And really, that just kind of shows us that maybe we're getting some sort of equality or equity if, a billionaire is being caught up on something that he's done in his long and crooked life. That's for sure. So I'm shocked. I'm shocked that we are kind of thinking this way. But there's another angle in which I wanted to go with this. And I have a lot of questions about this new movement that's happening in America. This new Trump support for Trump, this movement within the black community. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I'm trying to understand it. Sometimes it makes me very, very down. It brings me down to think we have fought this long for you guys to support somebody who, your forefathers would have, I know for sure, hated. I don't think Malcolm X would have been a fan of somebody like Donald Trump. And also, when we think about in South Africa, the elections that just took place quite recently, it showed that it looks like a white party is going to get back into power after, I guess it's been 30 years since apartheid. Why does it matter? Why does it matter for a white party to get back? Well, we are still trying to make sure that white supremacy no longer has a strong fist in African society, in this world, to be honest with you. If we think about the minerals and we think about the EU, the UN, and all these organizations and how they are white dominated and how they work against Africans getting the true worth for their minerals and resources and what they give to the world. So to have a place like South Africa, we already knew Africa was not really belonging to us. It was just on paper. Independence is just a mere song, I guess, or a flag, and maybe a name, but certainly not financially, certainly not meaning whatever is in that soil belongs to us. All the oil belongs to us. All the uranium, the cobalt, the coltan belongs to us. All the wealth belongs to us. And I just see every African leader as an employee of, the West. That's as best as it gets. If we think of someone like Paul Kagame, I said this in one of my earlier episodes, I do not believe that man is a man who is walking into a room with the likes of, the British politicians that he's met over the years. I do not believe that he walks in that room with, the upper hand. I do not believe that he walks in that room with the bigger voice or the stronger voice, which is why we've even seen, William Ruto in Uganda who just recently made a trip to America. And I just see weakness everywhere. I see men who really have zero choice. Now, please understand me. Not at all would I say that they are blameless in the situation. They're definitely to blame. And if you ask me, I would definitely do with them as what should be done, once we get real people into power. But it always makes me just think, why is it or how is it that people like Julius Malema do not get into power, but it is people like, William Ruto and people like Paul Kagame? I think that is all by design. I think it is all by design that we do not get revolutionaries into power, but we are only allowed to get puppet politicians into power. And I wish we could see this for what it is, instead of having a self-blame or self-loathing that ultimately causes us to have. But when I'm thinking about the fact that Africans, have voted themselves the white party in South Africa, and when I'm thinking about the Trumpers who are now African-American people who are thinking the best way forward is to go with the likes of Trump, it makes me ask the question, and it makes me sometimes very depressed of, have we forgotten that the fight is not yet finished? Have we forgotten that we have not yet reached the finish line of this operation? It seems as though complacency has crept into our community. And it only makes sense. We are judging our finish line based off where we came. How do I say that? If we look at the white community, for example, the white community wouldn't make a judgment of where they are today based off where they used to be. The white community would make a judgment of today, or rather, they probably would make a judgment of where they used to be. But how I mean that is that they've rarely had the limitations that we've had. So, in fact, if they were to be in our position today, they would be very unfamiliar with it, and they would push as a community to say, no, this doesn't suit. This jacket doesn't fit. This shoe doesn't fit. But something about the black community finds ourselves accepting certain things because, well, we're no longer in chains. I mean this, and I said, if you were to put Karen in a black skin, she would have a meltdown. If you put any white lady in this generation in a black skin and all the hurdles that come with being a black woman in this society, I'm telling you right now, she'll probably have a meltdown. She wouldn't understand it. She would not understand what is going on because they've not had the same limitations and hurdles that they have had to jump over. So then we ask ourselves the question, are we judging our progress based off where we once were? Should we be judging our finish and where we need to be based off what is there to be offered to every human being that walks this planet Earth? So you're looking like, oh, you know what? I have the same privileges, or I'm not in chains, or I don't have no longer any laws that say I can't marry a white woman, or I no longer have this. Yes, but look at the numbers. And I'm going to play something by the Scottish, or the ex-Scottish Prime Minister, where he seemed to say something that I thought was quite awesome. Quite radical, but quite awesome. Listen to what he said.
My portfolio alone, the Lord President, white. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white. The Solicitor General, white. The Chief Constable, white. Every Deputy Chief Constable, white. Every Assistant Chief Constable, white. The Head of the Law Society, white.
And Nana had a problem to say with that. She said,
in a 95% white country, Hamza, you did a great job, thank you.
And this is exactly the issue we are in. In one hand, we are being told, you belong. You're not being limited. You're not. There's no hold on you. There's no hold on you at all. But then in the next hand, someone is saying, oh, the country is 95%. Then on the other hand, someone is saying, oh, this country is being overridden by foreigners and foreigners are now becoming a dominant force, which Nana is a part of that far-right people who are saying, oh, foreigners are becoming a more dominant force. Then if foreigners are becoming a more dominant force, then tell me why he was able to make that statement and it was true. Why was the ex-prime minister or first minister of Scotland able to make such a statement and you rebutted that statement and gave a good reason as to why that is? And this is a great explanation as to where we are in this current day. We are now in this middle ground in the fight. When I talk about how Trumpies are black people are supporting Trump, when I talk about how black people are forgetting what we have fought for to get to where we are today, I sometimes get worried, I sometimes get discouraged. But there's something that hits me. This next phase, it is not for the faint of heart. This next phase, it is not for the naive. This next phase, this current phase, should I say, it is not for the naive. You have to have an ability to read the room and to have an understanding of the dynamics that happen between white and black people. Because if you do not have a good eye and a good ear, you will find yourself being someone who you never thought that you were. You will find yourself being the butt of the joke. You will find yourself being the Uncle Tom of the room. If there's one thing I've understood about white people, is that they understand, and they, due to the fact they are now hoodwinked by oppression, they have a better ability at reading the room and understanding where you stand and understanding where they stand. And they are comfortable there because their position and their authority or their power, I guess, or supremacy is not under attack. It is only when you come across Negroes like me where they find themselves being very uncomfortable and feeling very threatened, because this is a Negro who is not accepting his position in a dynamic that has been there for quite some time, which has been this gray area where we are no longer in slavery. We're no longer we're not yet at the finish line, but hey, we're in this middle ground where I have a position and you have your position and we have this certain dynamic, and the best we have to offer you is niceness. But if you dig and you dig and you dig, follow me today, brothers and sisters, there is a level of respect that the Negro needs. I seen this wonderful video today by our brother Shaka Bars. He's doing great work. And he spoke about how the minerals in Africa and the way, all the tragedies that are happening in Africa for the minerals, how it's being overlooked is because of racism. It's the dehumanization of the African. This is a direct indication of the world that we live in. But if you are naive, you won't understand that that is the temperature of this world. That is the current temperature. That is the current dynamic of this world that we live in. And it's reflecting with the minerals, and it reflects in the world organizations, and it reflects in the higher places, and it reflects, like the First Minister of Scotland said, it reflects in these places. And in the more casual places, you find solace in the fact that you can have a few drinks with white people, which you no longer were able to have, which you used to not able to have. So then you are judging progress off these things. You are judging progress off one or two black billionaires. Or you're judging progress off of these factors. This clip is so good, I'm going to have to play it for you guys in order for you guys to get a gist of what I'm saying. But let me play this for you.
So if there were 6 million Jews killed in World War II by the Nazis, right, and every single movie and every single book and every single narrative is about never again, Why is that rhetoric not being passed over to our brothers and sisters in Congo? We know why. Is this racism?
Yeah.
Let's not pretend like the reason why this is happening is not because the same heart of darkness, the same ideas, the same rhetoric, that they just deserve it. Like, they just deserve the suffering. Why are these people not being humanized? Because I have footage on my phone of people being beheaded. I have stories of women being raped by 20, 30 men, right? I have them. If I post them online, just me alone, my account's going to get taken down. I'm going to get censored. So we need to get to this tipping point. If we care about it, we need to get to this tipping point. And the diaspora is tacit complicit because they have phones. They have tablets, they have computers. And I'm not saying don't have phones and don't have tablets and don't have computers. Take the minerals, stop killing people.
Take it, pay a fair price.
Yeah.
Help the country develop.
So that's it. It's racism. And then you have been guilt tripped into thinking, don't talk about racism. You're feeling sorry for yourself. No one would ever tell the Jews they're feeling sorry for themselves. No one would dare tell the Jews they're feeling sorry for themselves. No one would dare tell white women that they are feeling sorry for themselves. I understand that there is I may stand corrected to a degree, there could be a pushback on the current feminist movement. But I think the basic human rights that a woman deserves, I don't think anybody's arguing that. I don't think anyone is arguing that, and I guess the proof is in the pudding in the positions that women hold of power. White women hold of power. But it is the African who is made feel like he is asking for too much. And this is what has driven us into this current place where we are, this gray area where we have been forced to camp out and park progress right here. And this is when you have black people voting Trump. And this is when you have black people voting for the wrong party in South Africa. And this is when you have this confusion that's taking place where black people do not understand the agenda. Sometimes I think, wow, wasn't it better when we were in a worse place so everybody knew what the goal was? No. I'm going to use a Bible reference for anybody who is a Bible person. And we understand that the Israelites were able to escape from Egypt. But then there was this gray area before they crossed over into the promised land. And there was a lot of confusion. A lot of people were almost reminiscing of the older times. Were reminiscing of times of that seemed and came across as more comfortable. And I feel that in today's, there are black people who are voting for Trump, who are forgetting the severity of where we came from. And in a complete moment of insanity, not even moment of insanity, just spiraling, we have found ourselves wishing, without us understanding that that's what we're doing, that we were back there. Not knowing that we are supposed to commence into a final stages of this fight. And what happens with the Israelites is they don't end up seeing the promised land. They actually have to be left behind in the wilderness in order for the real people who were prepared for the battles that they would face before they reached the promised land. That was one thing that I was so amazed when I read that, and that I felt like God opened up to me, is that there were going to be actually a few final battles before they officially crossed over, that God understood that the brave are going to have to face those battles. If you're crying, if you're, folding, if you're, cooning, if you're cooning already in the gray area, there is a final zone, a final end zone that we're trying to pursue and trying to, commence into, and you're going to mess that final stage up. And what is that final stage for us, brothers and sisters? That is us actually having hold of our wealth. That is us actually having hold of our resources. That is us actually rightfully becoming the superpower. That is us. This is going to be built off a mentality where black people understand their worth. I had a friend of mine who was saying, maybe you should reference, the fighting spirit of and the uncompromising spirit of the Jews rather than the Palestinians, or rather the Palestinians rather than the Jews, because there's less oppression in the Jewish, or rather in the Palestinian desire for unity and uncompromising their rights and whatnot. And although that is correct, there's something about the Jewish one that makes me feel like there's, of course, being on the current winning team, they are not afraid to exercise their power. They are not afraid to exercise. Unfortunately, they're exercising it in the wrong way, but they are not afraid to exercise their dominance. And I think the world is really afraid of Africa getting to a place where we are not afraid to exercise our dominance politically and socially. But this is going to take really intelligent people. This is going to take people who are tuned in and tapped in. You will not find Trumpers in that promised land. You will not find the people who have voted incorrectly in South Africa in that. You will not find them. You will find people who have curated their mind to accept rejection. Because if you think in these final stages that everybody is going to want to be your friend, when everybody has gotten used to you in the current position that you are, and now that Africa will go on to become the superpower it always should have become, and you think everyone's going to be rooting you on, I already experience and understand this socially. I can only imagine when we get this and we harmonize with this socially, where it climbs up to a place where even politically, where we create enemies, where we go through the tough times and the hard times and the rejection, where you accept the fate of the likes of Julius Malema, where a majority of the people are tearing down your name and saying, oh my goodness, that guy is too harsh, isn't he? This promised land, my brothers and sisters, it is not for the naive. It is not for the faint heart. What white society has been able to do for quite some time is weaponize how much we need and we have felt like we have needed to be a part of their society. This has been socially and this has been politically, because they have had a grip on society. They have had a grip on power. They have had a grip on the narrative. They have had a grip on resources, that it seemed like the only way forward is cooperation with them. Socially, in your job, in work, with friends, anywhere, the only way forward is some form of cooperation. One thing I like about the Zionists is that they are not attempting to cooperate with anybody. It is only that their sheer egoicness has driven them to a place where they've actually driven themselves to their own self-destruction. But besides that, they compromised with nobody about what standard they were setting for themselves as a community, which is why now anti-Semitism has become more of a danger crossing the anti-Semitism line has become more dangerous than crossing the racism line. It has become more dangerous to be an anti-Semite than it has been to be a racist for quite some time now. How did we get there, brothers and sisters? For a race of people that look basically like white people, who are white, how has that now become more dangerous? Because they are not afraid, and they are not naive, and they are not afraid to not be naive. They're not going to go voting their enemies such as Trump. They're not going to be hoodwinked and camp at a middle ground. They pushed forward until they arrived at where they said they would arrive, having bounced back from the Holocaust. So I ask my brothers and my sisters, when are we going to be brave enough? If you're not brave enough, don't you worry, you will be left behind. I spent so much time thinking everybody has to be on the boat. Everybody has to be on the same page. There will be a remnant. There will be people who are awake. There will be people who will carry and see us through into these final stages. And there will be a huge and a great number of people and brothers and sisters who will be under a spell of confusion that we have reached the finish line in this final hour. But they will not reap the benefits. They will not rear their children to reap the benefits. And therefore their children will probably not reap the benefits either. Only the people who are tunnel visioned and who are locked in, open ears, and a very to no compromising will be able to receive what we are going to get in this final hour. And white people are very comfortable with you not receiving it, very comfortable with you not seeing race, very comfortable for you forgetting what you started this for, very comfortable for you thinking we have finished and we have arrived at it. While their countries are developing, their countries are eating our wealth. This is all a reflection of day-to-day life. Once we shift the mentality and the culture and the perspective within our community, I promise you, brothers and sisters, this will reflect politically. It will reflect politically. It will reflect in how we vote. It will show up in how we vote. It will show up in every department of black life, whether it be the West or whether it be in Africa. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
And I'm on a mission for you.